All right, some breaking news coming out of Columbus. Jaxon Smith-Njigba is not going to play against Georgia in the Peach Bowl. Um, this is something that Ryan Day was asked about Smith-Njigba on Sunday. Um, and he said there will be more information out coming later this week, and we've hit that point. So uh, he will. This is a guy. Just in case you were wondering, Smith-Njigba had 5 catches for like 40 yards this year, but he had a hamstring injury coming out of the Notre Dame game, so he's hardly played. the The thing about it is, there was hope that in Ohio that he would be able to get back for the game with Georgia, but it sounds like, and I obviously don't report on Ohio State, it just sounds like he was running out of time to get healthy for the game. And when you've got guys like that hurting their hamstrings, it's really tricky, man. I mean, like, you cannot rush that back. That's not smart. You have to really stretch it out. And, there's things to be wary of, because that can be a problematic injury for someone who, this would be either his second to last or last game playing. Do you really want to, injure yourself for what will be a run up to millions of dollars of possible money in the NFL draft? And excuse me, that's if you even whew, these fall, winter, whatever it is, allergies. That's even if you really have the capability to play, which it doesn't sound like is possible. So that's one fewer problem for Georgia to concern themselves about. It's really too bad for the young man, because, again, a season ago, um, he set a single season. Let me just read you the article that I just pushed out there. The former Ohio State star set Ohio State single. The former Buckeye star set Ohio State single season records for receptions and receiving yards a year ago, but has been hampered with a hamstring injury. The injury happened during the season opening win over Ohio State over Notre Dame. Smith-Njigba last played against Iowa, which was in late October. So it's been a while since he's been out there, and it's asking a lot for these guys to just sort of suddenly get healthy, for lack of a better term. I mean, it's too bad. One guy, Kelee Ringo would have been dealing with him, or Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, they've got so many players at Ohio State that, this would have helped them for sure. But now it's not going to happen. Kelee would have been dealing with it. I've got I don't know, a handful of these left, not many. I can't exactly go make more of them. So get these while you can. I'm having to send them off. I've been to the post office twice today. That's telling you the volume at which we're going through them. So make sure you're checking that out. Um, Look, the line hasn't changed, nor do I expect it to necessarily change. I don't think the folks at Ohio State felt like he was going to play. Um, just from what I can decipher, I don't know anyone at Ohio State, so this is not an overly educated guess. But um, yeah, I mean, that would have been a heck of a return for an Ohio State team that can score even without him. Now, again, they've not played great in November. I mean, when you take a look at Ohio State and what they've done, I think the brand really makes you sit up and take note. They know, by the way, this shirt is nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. If you pick up DAWGSTRUCTION at Red Zone in Athens, I know they have fewer than 10 books remaining. So run in there now and get it. You'll get the shirt for free as well. Okay, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, which was that thing that Kirby said after the game against Tennessee. But these two teams are right on top of each other. They are within 6/10ths of a yard, if my math is correct. Yes, it is correct. Um, 6/10ths of a yard on average that these two teams you know, are at offensively. And the return of and Jigba would have made a big difference for Ohio State. But that's not going to happen. I mean, and it's not fair It's not. But there is no fair. I mean, sometimes you get what you get in life, and it's not fair to have injuries. But all you can do is try to earn as much as you can earn, and if it works out, it does. But I did want to get back to talking about Ohio State because I know a lot of y'all talk about Ohio State or think about Ohio State, but I don't know how much everybody really watches Ohio State. Again, I saw their game with Notre Dame where they really kind of fought through that. It looked like they were in a little bit of trouble in the third, I think it was, a little bit, not a lot. And then, really didn't play a tough schedule until the end of the season, where they played pretty well, coming back to win against Penn State on the road, and followed that up with just not a good performance against Northwestern in the weather. A really good win over Indiana, winning by almost 40 points, 42 points. And then just the last 2 weeks were not good. A 13-point win over Maryland, where they just sloshed around the whole time. It was not an impressive look. And then the game with Michigan was a debacle. I mean, it was, I'm sure, their total nightmare scenario coming to fruition. Watching, uh, getting beat on the road is kind of one thing. Getting your ass handed to you at home by your arch rival. I mean, that they, you know, I wonder if Ryan Day's soul left his body and he just watched it, leave, and just that is a frightening experience. And Ryan's taken a lot of grief lately, and that's one thing that Georgia should be c- cognizant of, is that Ohio State's backs are totally against the wall, and that includes their coaching staff. No, Ryan Day is not going to get fired. That is not happening. But there's plenty of concern that um, in Columbus. Again, this is a program that really is as big as there is in college sports, not just football, but college sports. They are a powerhouse. They are the real deal. I mean, them and Georgia got a lot in common. Um, and doing as well as Ryan Day has, the only games he's lost have been these big games. And, if he were to win the national championship this year, it would be a huge deal. Don't get me wrong. But there's criticism right now because of the 5 games this guy has lost, 2 of them have been in Michigan. And you just can't, that rivalry, you just kind of can't get away from. And, in 19, they took a tough loss to Clemson on the last play of the game. In 2020, obviously got blown out by, they blew out Clemson, and they got blown out by Alabama, a team that was, I think we all know, an exceptional football team. They lost that game 52-24 after going 49-28 on the Taters. Um, and and then in 21, the loss to Michigan was one thing. They lost to Oregon at the beginning of the year, but they had the whole season to kind of bring it back, for lack of a better term. Um, when they don't score, it becomes troublesome for them when they don't get over 30 points. They still win those games, but they are more likely to lose. Like, for instance, in the year I was just talking about, and this gets back to the young man being hurt. In 19, when you look at Ryan Day's teams, they score over 30 all of these games except Penn State, which they won by 11. And then they lost to Clemson. They lost on the last play of the game. They lost 23-29. In 2020, let me go to the 20 Ohio State team. They only scored in the 20s twice, and they lost one of those games and won the other. I mean, they beat Northwestern in a real tight fight in the championship, in the Big Ten championship game. Maybe they just have trouble with Northwestern. I don't know. And then they just, really put a hurting on Clemson in that Sugar Bowl game. And then got, I didn't think there'd be any doubt that they'd lose to Alabama, and they did, convincingly, 52-24. Basically doubled up. And then, last year, the only games they lost were games where they did not score 30. They lost to Oregon 35-28. They were down 35-21, I think, in that game. And then, they lost to Michigan 42-27. They did win a game in the 20s, which is the game at Nebraska, where they didn't play so hot in that one. I mean, this happens. Just because you're an elite program doesn't mean you play really well all the time. This year, same basic premise. When they get into the 20s, they have a chance to lose. The Notre Dame game, 21-10. The Northwestern game, 21-7. So they've dug it out a little better this year because they're not allowing as many points. But this season here lately, I mean, lately, excuse me, in the November, the Halloween on, they allowed 31 to Penn State. They struggled with Northwestern. I don't know if you watched that game. Their best game they played was against Indiana at home. And then, at Maryland, they just didn't play well, and obviously did not play well against Michigan. So they've given up in back-to-back games. They've given up 75 points total. I mean, that's just not ideal when you're going to be facing a Georgia team that's got its own issues defensively. Again, you can pick this shirt up if you go and grab DAWGSTRUCTION downtown in Athens on Clayton Street at our friends at Red Zone. Both these teams have stuff to work on. It is too bad to see Jaxon Smith-Njigba not playing in this game. He would have given Ohio State a lot of firepower. But this news is just breaking in a statement from Ohio State to the media. And anyway, we'll watch it closer as we go on towards this game. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the website.